Thank you for tuning in to Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. I am music producer Achickwitbeatz.
And entrepreneur Breezy Gipson right here.
And we're glad that you're rocking with us once again. We'd love to give a shout out to you, the listener, and also to our home stations, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Sparks Radio out of Denver, Colorado. And, I'm just glad that we get the opportunity to do this one more again, as they used to say.
Yeah, and there's a new wave going on, some new Jack City going on, some new year going on. So, we're energized, we're fresh, we're very appreciative, and hey, the spot has opened up for us, and this opportunity has opened up. So we're just putting both feet in.
Yes. And of course, we got another great show lined up for you with music industry news, beats by yours truly. And the special guest, Lynn, is joining us, and we're just thrilled to bring the show to you. And I think without any further ado, we should just go ahead and get it started. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go. And we're back with music industry news. Chances are the story has kind of caught your attention, maybe you saw it in passing, whatever the case may be, but Universal Music Group is getting sued over its Spotify equity ownership by hip-hop duo Black Sheep and other artists in a class action lawsuit. So, man, I think that they've got a tremendous opportunity here. I'm definitely on Black Sheep and the other artist side, just in case I'm not clear about that. I want to make sure that I'm always for the artists getting what they deserve. So basically what's going on is Black Sheep says that Universal owes them and other artists approximately $750 million in unpaid royalties. And so the three main claims are that one, Black Sheep and the other artists signed to Universal should have been paid 50% of the royalties from Spotify since 2011 due to a clause in their contracts pertaining to net receipts. The second part is that UMG agreed to accept lower royalty rates from Spotify in exchange for the equity that they received back in 2008. And then the third part of this is that Black Sheep and other artists should have also received 50% of Universal Music's Spotify equity or the value of it, because according to the duo suit, it would be proportional to their royalty contract. Makes perfect sense to me. What about you?
Well, there's a in a nutshell, yes, I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of stuff at play here, and the fact that they've been doing their research, because the reason why this was brought to Black Sheep's attention was because they've been following music business worldwide and some of these other editorials that have been kind of showing people the inner workings of the music industry. So they didn't just take the news story and just say, that's interesting. They actually did some research and said, you know what, according to our contracts, we should have gotten money for that. And they're doing something about it. So, I mean, that's just a fantastic thing. I'm definitely rooting for them and all the other artists that could come up with a big payday if this turns out in their favor.
Well, hint, 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 hint. All of these news stories that Achickwitbeatz has been bringing to you, the listeners, you better take some notes. If
Right.
you haven't, you better start, because there could have been plenty of news articles that could have been specifically about you, the artist.
Mm-hmm.
If you let it slide over your head, then you can't say that it wasn't presented to you.
Right.
But not being facetious, I'm just saying, pay attention. And this is a great example of how the artists actually paid attention to the music industry news that was happening in their realm, and they saw that it did fit them, and they did the proper due diligence to follow up on it to see if it really did involve them, and it did. Wow.
And teaming up with other artists to do it. So,
yeah,
they've got a much better chance together than if it was just the duo going against the label. But yeah, we'll see how that turns out. We'll definitely keep you posted as things come up. But yeah, those three issues, I think, kind of give them a strong leg to stand on. And so yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted.
And now, if the listener actually delves into these humongous amounts of income, the humongous amounts of, I don't want to say money, the humongous amounts of funds that are involved in transactions like this, these groups, these mega business groups, they're stocking a lot of funds these days.
Yes.
Okay. So then you got to ask yourself, okay, who are these groups and what do they do with those funds that they are stacking up? Okay. So can you quote that dollar amount again that is involved in this particular situation?
$750 million.
There you go. Okay. Not chump change, but you, the artist, actually have a hand in how all of that's generated.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you, the artist, have a hand in how all of that is generated, it behooves you to pay attention as to what folks are doing with funds that are generated that have something to do with work you did.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. That's free game right there.
Yep.
And speaking of big dollar amounts, a jury has ordered Sony Music to pay $160 million for a shooting that went down back in 2017 at the Cousin Stiz concert for failing to ensure that the premises were safe for guests at the venue. So, back in 2017, a gunman opened fire at the concert. This was at Masquerade nightclub in Atlanta's underground development and injured 4 people. 2 of them unfortunately passed from their injuries, and the complaints filed by the victims' estates say that Sony Music Holdings, the Masquerade nightclub, and its CEO, as well as other entities involved in promotion, management, security, and all that, said they failed to make sure everything was safe. And so that's why they were named in the suit. However, Sony Music Holdings has filed a public motion to stay the enforcement of the judgment, basically saying that they were mistakenly named as a defendant and argue that they didn't have any contractual relationship with Cousin Stiz. they didn't have any involvement with the concert, and it's not the right Sony entity that they should have mentioned because they're not engaged in pre-recorded music. So the filing says even if they did choose the correct entity, they didn't plan, book, or manage or receive any revenue from ticket sales or supervise the artist's appearance or performance at the concert. So, I mean, they do lay out a strong case. Who knows how it's actually going to turn out? But, just kind of something to be aware of, that now people are starting to be held liable for things like this that take place. So if you're going to be putting on shows, or, if you're planning a festival or anything, make sure that you have everything that you need to have in place. So that way, if something comes back, it's not coming back on you in this manner that's happening right now. So, I mean, it's always kind of good to be aware of the different things that can happen, so that way you're not caught off guard. And definitely making sure that the people who come to your events are safe. That's a huge thing. So, yeah, just a little heads up for you there.
Well, first of all, for the individual who has set foot on the property of the Masquerade Club, oh my gosh. Once you realize just how intricately built the establishment was, with all of its nooks and crannies and all of its, it attracted everybody, the way it was set up right from the jump start. Okay, so that means major funding, involvement, investment, just to set the place up the way it was set up. Okay, so the man on the street, the woman on the street, you can't just rely on word of mouth on the street to get answers to various questions that you have about the establishment. You have to dig, you have to do your diligence and dig deep. And so what I'm saying is there's a lot of funding going on with a lot of these establishments all around the globe. So just be aware of where you are and who's behind the funding. Find out who's behind the funding. Don't just walk in the door, have a good time, and walk out the door and you never even give it a thought. That's all I'm saying. Because if it's music industry related, and if you're in the music industry, it behooves you to know who's funding and how you can get a slice of that. Yeah.
Wise words. Very wise words.
Who's funding the project, and you may be able to use some of your talent to get a slice of that one way or the other. So don't just go in the front door, have a good time, walk out the front door, and don't give it any more thought.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Opportunities await. Yeah.
That's right. That's deep.
Yeah. Okay. Universal Music is suing Triller for failing to make payments for the last 9 months in violation of their licensing agreement. So I feel like we say this often, but just the name of who's suing Triller just keeps changing, maybe every few months. But yeah, so back in February of 2021, Universal pulled its catalog from Triller for withholding payments owed to the artists and refusing to negotiate a license going forward. Then a few months later, they settled the differences with a new licensing deal, and we're all buddy-buddy for a while. But just after, 20 months, Universal is suing Triller, and now they're terminating the agreement, saying that they haven't paid for the last 3 quarters, just ignoring invoices. So in August, we shared with you that Sony Music was filing suit for the exact same thing and terminated their agreement with Triller as well. So
whoa. In August? Okay, so to the listener, what that means is keep records. So you can fall back on prospective dates of different situations that have happened to you, the artist, in the past. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And so, this December, Triller had removed the music catalogs for Universal, Warner, Sony, and Merlin, which, if you're not familiar, they do digital licensing for many of the top independent labels and distributors as well. So back when they removed this in December, Triller says oh, we're reassessing each of our label deals as they come due because our catalog usage is a small fraction of our overall business with creators. So, I mean, so basically they're saying, well, music's just a little bit of what we do. We don't really need to pay all this money that they're asking. And they're also saying that they've been trying to make financial arrangements, quote unquote, for which makes sense for their platform. So they're saying they want to do it on a label by label basis. So if the label has a lot of music that Triller users are utilizing in their videos, then they want to pay more for that, but not for labels that don't have as much, which, I mean, honestly, how can you really justify that as a way for paying for licensing? Like, I mean, yeah, it's just ridiculous. So we'll see what Triller decides to do going forward, but something is obviously amiss there. Why they don't pay on time and why it continues to be an issue. And then they keep working things out saying that they'll pay and then they don't. So yeah, I don't know what's going on over there, but I definitely hope they get it together, or, you know, just realize that artists deserve to be paid for what they're providing. You know how important music is for a lot of these apps. So TikTok, Instagram, with the reels, all that stuff. Music is a huge portion of it. So for them to kind of downplay it and minimize it, yeah, I don't know. I don't see that working out too well for them unless they decide to go ahead and pay artists what they deserve.
Well, I mean, so you, the artist that are hearing this, you play a vital role in this whole musical dimension. Mm-hmm. So it behooves to pay attention, and, you know, no matter how you spin it, in the end, don't just walk into the studio, record your stuff, and walk out and be totally oblivious to all of these kinds of business news items that are taking place on an ongoing basis every day. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so just, that's right.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause, and we'll be back with even more music industry news right after this.
Sounds good.
more music industry news. MasterCard has announced a Web3 Spotlight program to develop and launch 5 emerging musical artists. So this includes musicians, DJs, and producers in the digital economy. So, hey, there's an opportunity if you've been thinking, hey, I want to get in on this, Web3 thing that's just exploding and about to be more commonplace. Here's your chance. So it's the MasterCard Artist Accelerator Program, and it's going to kick off this spring. The curriculum will teach artists how to build their own brand through Web3 experiences. So that includes minting NFTs, representing yourself in a virtual world or multiple virtual worlds, and establishing an engaged community. And if you're an artist, you know how important that is. It's cool to get likes, but it's more meaningful when people actually, engage with your music and what you do. So, I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity. The MasterCard Music Pass, the limited edition NFT, will give holders access to the exclusive Web3 and music educational materials. So if you don't get selected, then you can still actually purchase the NFT to be able to learn alongside with some of the artists and join in the platform, and you can sharpen your own tools and knowledge of the space. So if this is something that interests you, make sure that you check out mastercard.com/artist-accelerator. So that way you can sign up to get information when these opportunities come out and, take advantage of it.
Yeah. And don't get left out. That's a huge opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this one is kind of more of an informative story. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, Breezy. I wasn't familiar with it before coming across the story, but Trey Fuego has a song, 90mh. I'm hoping that that's actually what it's called. I don't know if I'm showing my age by not knowing this, but so basically the hit by the independent Arizona-based rapper was originally released in 2019. Sony Music Entertainment and Sony Music Publishing filed a suit against Trey Fuego in December, accusing him of flagrant and deliberate infringement of both the sound recording and underlying composition in the song called Reflections, which was by Japanese composer Toshifumi Hinata, and it came out in 1986. So Sony Music is seeking damages for the alleged infringement across 6 different counts. So this spans the recorded music, the music publishing rights, and they want any gains, profits, and advantages that were obtained by the rapper as a result of his infringing acts. So, I mean, advantages, that means if he books shows off of it, any of that, they're coming for all of it. And so the complaint actually notes that on top of him doing the copyright infringement, that he continued to make the works available until Sony actually issued a takedown request to the digital service providers. So this went out to Spotify, YouTube, and all these others saying, hey, this guy's ripping off our stuff, make sure you take it down. So it wasn't until then that those were removed. So note to self, note to artists out there, if you're listening, they can kind of come for you depending on how popular stuff gets. You start making waves, then they want everything that you earned up until that point. So, okay, that's the first part of the story. Second part is if you search for it. So if you type in Trey Fuego -90mh on Spotify, the artist track won't appear there. And it's not on his official Spotify page. However, if you have the direct link for it, you can easily find it on Spotify. And let's say now you're listening to the story and you're curious. If you searched on Google that phrase, you'd be able to find the direct link and still get to it on Spotify. So, it kind of begs the question, did Spotify actually remove it if the direct link is still working? And then, according to the still available Spotify track page, it's been played more than 172 million times on the service to date. So, on top of that, the same song has been re-uploaded to Spotify as of this month, just 5 months after Sony asked them to take it down. So it was re-uploaded through another account, and they actually cite someone else's owning the copyright, but it's been having the same amount of plays and all the metadata was the same. So it basically just transferred to another one. So it was like a way to still keep earning money on it. So I mean, this story is so bizarre. And then there was even a third account that decided to upload it, but that metadata was different, so it has a different set of streams. But yeah, it kind of begs the question, like, what's going on at Spotify? Is it because, you know, they're being kind of lax with their metadata protections? And Music Business Worldwide had called them out for that a while back. And this definitely seems to be proving that that might be the case. So, yeah, I don't think Spotify is necessarily trying to do things in the best effort for the artist, because if they were, you know, they would have made sure that they honored Sony's requests instead of just saying, okay, well, somebody else can upload this and it's fine. So even the fact that other accounts are using the popularity of another artist to be able to get streams is just wild when you look at it. Isn't that bizarre?
That's very bizarre. That's very bizarre. And it goes way back to the very beginnings of this particular show, Music Marvels. Because right from the beginning, we always said to the artist, please, we've begged the artists, please surround yourself with capable people that can protect you legally and that can inspect various types of contracts, documents, and on and on and on. And so again, you know, we say it's more than just show up at the studio, record, and walk out of there. There's a lot that goes along with this if you're treating your music as a business, which it actually is.
It is.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And just in case you thought we were going to close out the music industry news session without mergers or acquisitions, it's not going to happen. Fret not. Downtown Music has acquired Curve Royalty Systems. And so that's a royalty processing platform that was founded in 2019, specifically to deal with the scale and demand of modern digital music. And so they're going to continue to provide those royalty services to its client base while integrating with Downtown Music's distribution. And so just in case, if you've been following the show, you may have noticed this, but if not, Downtown has made a series of strategic acquisitions in the recent years. So they bought out Fuga, CD Baby, and all of its subsidiaries. It's also invested in Beat Bread, Vamper, and other creator-led music companies, all to support the profiles of business in the music ecosystem. So they're basically making sure that they've got all the bases covered. So if you're not aware of what that means, they are coming for the game heavy. So if they aren't already providing the service, they're buying up the other services that they haven't already had within their possession. So yeah, they didn't come to play. You can tell by where they're putting their money. So definitely keep an eye on what Downtown Music has got going on.
Well, you know, I'm going to say this. I mean, I got to say this. You know, I keep stressing over and over and over about the artists surrounding themselves with people who are competent that can help protect them in their endeavor, which we're calling music business. Okay. So if the artist out there, if you're in the United States or Canada, United States, and you can't afford or don't know where to go to set something like that up to protect yourself, shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'll get you the info, just straight out. Because just the 20 seconds it takes to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Breezy Gipson, that could be a 20-second that could save your whole music business. So reach out. Yeah. Or, you know, give me a shout on the phone, leave me a phone message, or hit me 470 nationwide, 470-869-2202. Can't get any more succinct than that. 470-869-2202. And leave me a note, leave me a message, and we'll get back with you. Point blank.
That's what's up. You got a valuable piece of information right there, the listener. A direct line to Breezy. And since you're mentioning that, there's a lot of need for protection, but this isn't really a full news story, but just in case you're ever wondering what happened to the STEM player, that's somebody that had people around them to kind of help them pivot. So the STEM player was originally from Kano, and remember, they collaborated with a certain artist that I choose not to name anymore. But once he kind of got excommunicated from the music industry and other industries as well, kind of leads you to think, okay, well, what's going to happen with this big project that the company was working on? Well, they decided to pivot to the STEM projector, and which is $1,000 on pre-order right now. But so yeah, they're basically kind of taking it and doing something different, and now they're working with Ghostface Killah from Wu-Tang. And so yeah, like you said, with the right people, you got somebody legally in your corner that can kind of point you into a different direction when unexpected things like that pop up. Because, collaboration is definitely key, but you never know when one of your collaborators is just going to go off the rails. So kudos to them for being able to pivot. And just like Breezy said, make sure that you keep people around you, hit them up when you need help. And yeah, that's good stuff right there, Breeze.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we're just all about helping the artists, indie artists, professional artists, the artists, people, the woman or the man on the street, or if you established a higher echelon for yourself. Either way, the realm of contracts and documents is is unacceptably. I mean, you've got to spend some time with that. And again, for those who just roll up in the studio, record, and walk on out of there, not thinking about anything like this, that recording you made, if it blows up, then you're behind the 8 ball if it blows up before you get yourself protected. So get yourself protected first, or put yourself in a position where you can get proper legal advice on what it is that you're doing.
Yes.
That's hey, it behooves you to do that. As well as it behooves you to connect with Achickwitbeatz at achickwitbeatz.com for professional tips about what you're doing with your music. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, we're going to take another pause for the cause, and then we'll be back with our special guest, Lynn, right after this.
Okay. I'm excited.
Me too.
Gipson from the Breeze team. How would you like to see an online platform that brings you people who already indicated that they're interested in your particular type of business? Whether it's your music you're selling, hip-hop clothing, you got a restaurant or a cafe, or if you're an entrepreneur or agent for a business. Visit me at breeze2cheese.com. That's using the number 2, breeze2cheese.com, or click my bio link on my Instagram profile to see a live demo of how this can help you get more customers and make more money.
Hey, this is Achickwitbeatz. I am a multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit my website, achickwitbeatz.com, for resources for artists and instrumentals available in various genres for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's achickwitbeatz.com, ACHICKWITBEATZ. Let's make something happen. Thank you so much for joining us for Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. We are excited, thrilled, and delighted to announce that we have Lynn with us in the virtual building. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. And so you and I have been connected on Instagram for quite a while. So I know that you are, you've got so many different talents going between being a writer. You've got your e-zine going, you DJ. I mean, you got a lot going. So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of background on who Lynn is, some of the things that you've got going, and what kind of sparked the creative fire in you?
Yeah. Well, I am a storyteller, I like to say, first and foremost. I dip into a lot of different mediums, but regardless of what I'm doing, I am really interested in storytelling. And I think for me, it is an ancestral calling and pursuit, because I come from a line of really phenomenal storytellers. And so I started learning that from my grandmothers when I was really young, and have sort of stepped into my own. I lean heavily into poetry. And so I've published a few books and zines of my poetry. I have a second book coming out this spring. And then I'm also a dancer. I do dances of the diaspora. So I started really young with ballet, but then eventually found hip hop and bomba, salsa, samba, all of these different dances that I still currently practice and do storytelling around that as well. And then with music, my dad was a DJ actually growing up. And so I grew up in a home that was really full of music, and I inherited his record collection. So love also to just play around on the turntables and come up with different sets. And I'm hoping this year to get out there a little bit more with that. But yeah, I lean into a lot of different mediums of storytelling. And I think, again, just going back to family, it really, a lot of the things I do are things that I've learned from my elders and have just sort of decided to continue carrying the torch. So that's me.
Oh, that is incredible. Don't you think so, Breezy?
Right, that skill set is just unmatchable, and you come in bearing gifts that are completely unique, and so my hats off to you for what you have learned and what you possess and what you are sharing with the masses these days. So good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, now we got to talk a little bit about the storytelling. I've shared multiple times that I guess my first hip hop experience with that would have been Slick Rick's children's story. And I remember just being so fascinated just captivated, watching, listening. And so with you taking that and finding different ways to be able to utilize it, like with your dancing and all that, can you, I guess, maybe dive deeper into that? So like, I know you said that it's been a part of your history and your ancestors. And so what's the main thing that you, I guess, want to share with people whenever you participate in storytelling?
I love this question so much because that's where I was trying to get to with my answer. But I think, and I've been thinking about this a lot too. So it's a really, like, I've been thinking about my purpose a lot. And I think that something that there's two things for me. One is that I'm really interested in the power of diaspora. And I think through learning about different music styles and different dance styles and storytelling, like one thing that has continued to come up is that, you know, like Black people have this like shared history of being separated from one another through this, like, you know, catalyzing event that was a really horrific event. But in Latin America, in the United States, and in Africa, there's all these like things that still tie us together that even sometimes unconsciously we don't know. So like there's certain like drum rhythms that appear in music in the Americas that can be traced back to Africa, or there's some like hip movements and like stories that have made their way across the ocean and have taken on like different iterations, but like still hold very true to their roots in Africa. And I think that for me, highlighting those things and showing just the power of the diaspora is really important. And then I think also I'm really interested in sharing like about Black humanity from the lens that's not, I think sometimes especially within the literary canon, there's this thing where there's a lot of sharing of struggle and resistance and revolution. And while that is like a part of our history, there's also like joy. There's also so much that like Black people have contributed to the culture of the world. And I want to, in my work, really elevate those things and share those things in my storytelling. And so that is the work that I am currently leaning into and I'm excited about like sharing with the world.
Wow, that's impactful. Like I'm speechless right now. I'm gonna have to turn it over to Breezy. I have nothing to add. Like that's just whoa.
Well, you know, there's so many across the masses. You know, there's a slot for everyone. Okay, and what you've got in the pot that you have stirred up, that you have allowed to simmer, you've put ingredients in there. The aroma is coming up. Okay, and that aroma can go and is going in so many different directions to access so many different segments of the population. Okay, which is incredibly great because you know you've got your own mixed bag of info and education that you're sharing through many different fortes, and so the end project is at such a higher dimension that allows you to spread that and touch so many people. So I mean that you know, kudos to you, because any particular day of the week or any particular day of the month, you can identify that segment that you really want to concentrate on and then back it up and do it. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Higher dimension. Very well said. So yeah, like when you explain it, it feels like something that you should have seen more people kind of connect, but I had not seen any of that prior to you. So, like just the way you broke that down was just touching. And
Thank you.
yeah, so on top of, your storytelling and what you're doing with that, I understand that you've got a podcast that you've been working on as well.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so the podcast is also work that I'm very passionate about and a little different actually from like my regular storytelling. So the podcast is called Adult Happy Hour, and it started on you were talking about Instagram. It started on my Instagram story in 2020. That was an interesting year for all of us, but on Instagram I had started to host this like weekly thing in my story where I don't know, I felt like I was having trouble connecting with people. I was feeling a little down, and I was also having this like weird reaction where I since I wasn't going to happy hour with my friends, I wasn't necessarily able to talk about like some of the things that were going on in my life at that time, which leaned really heavily into like love and sex and things like that. And so I started this erotic like poetry and art night, and through doing that and having discussions around the images and the poems, I started to realize that the discussions were like so much more important and like motivating than sharing the art was. And so then I slowly started to like really focus in on those discussions, and it got to this point where like there was anywhere from 500 to 900 people tuned into my story every week.
Wow.
Having different discussions around sensuality and eroticism, etc. And all of these just other things started to come up. So people were like, I want more of this. I want to like learn more, hear more. And I was like, well, in like what format could this look like? And people said like a newsletter, all of these other things, but then the idea for a podcast came up. And so we started our podcast last year. We're in our second season now, and we talk about everything from intimacy and attraction to like BDSM and like ethical non-monogamy. But yeah, we get into some things and have very interesting conversations on the podcast. And I feel like I've learned and grown so much myself just from being in community with people like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about Adult Happy Hour.
All right. And so where can our listeners find that? Now that you've piqued our interest,
Yeah. Okay, so the podcast is on every streaming platform, I think, except for Amazon right now. We're working on that. It's called Adult Happy Hour, so you could look it up. And then if you're interested, I still host that weekly thing in my story. And so the podcast and the like Instagram kind of bounce off of each other, and I'll feature people's like opinions on the podcast, or like ask questions on Instagram that drive the podcast. And you can find me on Instagram at Poetry in Tings. So letter N and then Tings, like things without the H.
Big things happening. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I love it, man. I mean, just talking with you in this, I can't believe how quickly this time is going by. But in this short amount of time, I'm feeling inspired. So you have like this light of creativity that you just emit, and I'm sure that just like we're benefiting from it, our listeners are as well. And I really hope that they follow you and check you out and tune into the podcast, just so they can get some more of that. So the majority of our listeners are artists, and
cool.
How we always need to be inspired. So yeah, this is my personal recommendation to all our listeners out there. Make sure that you follow her, tune in, check her out. Constant source of inspiration. Wouldn't you say, Breezy?
I would agree totally. I would agree. We're blessed to have a woman here who is about her business and is sharing her business with us and with our listeners especially. So, that's a win-win. But with her additional involvements and endeavors, it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win. No losses, only wins. So, yeah, that's a very, very interesting and appreciated endeavor all around. Yeah, stirring it up.
Yeah, for sure. And so, we can't let you get out of here without talking a little bit more about DJing and how you get your dad's vinyl collection and all that stuff. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, yeah. So it's now my mom and my dad's collection. So it's interesting. I grew up around vinyl records, and like I said, my dad was a DJ in the 70s, and so we always had the turntables like going at my house, but I was never really interested in it, to be honest, growing up. And then there was this resurgence of vinyl collecting, and I want to say like it started in like 2014-ish. And I remember when one of my grandparents passed away, my parents gave away all those vinyl records, and I just remember thinking like, I don't want my family's records to go to anyone else. Like, these are like artifacts, and these are like family heirlooms that I want to hold on to. And I think just keeping that music in our family was something that really resonated with me. And so I told my parents they couldn't give away any more records before we talked about it. And that's when I started my vinyl collecting. And I started building my own like catalog at first, and I would go to like stores and dig through crates. I still do that to this day because I just like love the practice of it, and I think it I like feeling that grittiness on my hands and smelling the moldiness of records that have been sitting in a box for God knows how long. But there's something really special about just like participating in that activity. And then I think I went home, and my parents' records have been sitting in a garage, and I had driven from California to Seattle, where I'm from. And I was like, let me just hold that box for a few months. Let me just hold on to it. And slowly that way I convinced my parents to like start letting me drive these records back from Seattle to California. And it's been like 3 years now and 4 boxes, and they haven't asked for their records back. So I'm still holding on to them for them, but they have a new home in my house. And I think over the summer, so I had a baby, and I was on maternity leave. So I finally like had the opportunity to get a double turntable, to get like some nice speakers, and I have a 2-channel mixer and a 4-channel mixer. And so right now I'm kind of going through and just learning how to do very simple things like fade the song in and out at the right point in time. I still get really excited when I get that transition right, and when I can drop the beat out of one song and it sounds really nice in the other one. So I'm still tinkering and like learning those things, but I'm really into samples, and so I have hopes to do an installation where I can mix like some of the original songs with the songs that have sampled them. So I'm kind of tinkering right now so that I can get good enough to start doing that.
Awesome, man. I'm just, I can hear the excitement in your voice. It's in turn making me excited about it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially when you're talking about like the crate digging, man, there's nothing like that feeling.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, this time has just flown by way too fast. So we
I
already know
know.
we gotta have you back. So we continue with a part two at some point. Cause I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface, and especially, with all the different creative things that you're doing. Yeah, I feel like this should just be an open door policy. What do you think, Breeze?
Oh man, revolving door policy.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys are walking right back in here. So, we keep a revolve for you. So, yeah.
So yeah, before we close out, I want to give you a chance to share where people can connect with you again, and then I'll let Breezy close us out after that.
Cool. I would also love to come back because I want to hear more. I've been dying to talk to you because I've been also following you, and I'm so inspired just by what you're doing as a producer, and so would love to hear more about that as well. And people can find me. I'm on the internet, mostly on Instagram. Well, not mostly, solely on Instagram because I really don't like social media that much, but I can manage one. So it's Instagram for me. As I said, my at is at poetry in Tings. And so you can find me there. You could also Google Lynn Patterson, and some of my poetry will come up, which is kind of cool. I just discovered this the other day. And then, that I would say those are the two best ways to find me. But I appreciate you guys so much for having me. This was awesome. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Breeze.
Yes, well, to our illustrious guest, Miss Poetry in Tings, the one and only. Thank you for taking the time out to break off some time with us. To our listeners, you have been treated to just a royal visit from Miss Poetry in Tings. And I keep saying that because, to our listeners, write that down, follow up, search, and partake of all of the goodness that she is bringing forth in many dimensions. Okay. And so when you see something that she has to go ahead and buy, purchase, whatever you can that she's got out there, as well as tickets for performances or whatever, follow her. All right. So thank you again immensely, Miss Poetry in Tings, the one and only, joining us on this day. And fly high. Continue to fly high.
Thank you.
All right, and that's a wrap for this week's edition of Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. Once again, we thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you tuning in and sharing us with your friends. And another super huge shout out to our home stations, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Sparks Radio out of Denver, Colorado. And I mean, it's just a great time, and I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, it's what we're doing is we're helping communities across countries, across the globe. We appreciate the listeners from as far away as Brazil, from Ghana, from Germany, from the United States, from Tokyo, from Australia, from the Netherlands, from Italy, and we can go on from the Caribbean, from Canada. We can go on and on and on. Thank you to all of our listeners because you're really solid. So thank you.
Yes, we appreciate you. And so till next time, you know where to find us. Same time, same place. Tune in, tell a friend, and we'll see you then. Peace.
Peace.